Today, we live in a world full of rules, regulations, warning labels, all designed to keep us safe. But what if I told you there was a time, not so long ago, when you could legally buy dynamite right from your local hardware store? A time when being denied a credit card just because you were a woman was perfectly normal. Let's take a look back at the 1970s. A decade full of loopholes and freedoms that, honestly, would be completely unthinkable, and in many cases, illegal today. The 1970s was a time of massive social change, but many of the old rules still applied, especially for women. Picture this. You're a young working woman in 1970. You've got your own job, your own income. You walk into a bank to apply for a credit card, and the banker looks at you and says, "Where's your husband's signature?" Sounds like a bad movie, right? But for millions of American women, it was reality. Banks often required a husband's signature. Why? They believed women were simply too much of a credit risk. And it wasn't until the Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974 that this practice finally and thankfully became illegal. That attitude? It was everywhere, especially in the workplace. Back then, job ads in the paper could literally say, "Men only" or "women only," and no one blinked. Newspapers had separate sections for each gender. Want to be a secretary? Check. Help wanted. Female. Looking for a manager role? That's under help wanted male. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 had technically outlawed this stuff, but in reality, it took years and lots of court cases before things finally started to shift. It was a time when your gender could legally determine your job, your income, and your entire financial freedom. And beyond the social rules, the marketplace of the 1970s was like the Wild West. Some of the things being sold back then? Honestly shocking. For example, selling real human skeletons to schools and universities? Yeah, totally acceptable. Many of them were sourced from overseas. And the trade was, let's just say, loosely regulated at best. Eventually, ethical concerns and international laws tightened things up, and synthetic skeletons became the standard. But maybe the most tragic product of the decade was the Dalcon Shield, an intrauterine device, or IUD, marketed as a safe, hassle-free form of birth control. Problem was, it was poorly designed. It caused infections, infertility, and in some heartbreaking cases, even death. Doctors warned about it early on. Still, it stayed on the market for years. It wasn't until thousands of lawsuits and a huge public outcry that it was finally pulled in 1974. To this day, it stands as a warning in the history of women's health.
This important announcement from A.H. Robbins concerns the use of the Dalcon Shield IUD, a birth control device. Whether or not you know of any injury resulting from this product, you must act now or you will lose your right to ever make a claim. To make a claim, mail a postcard or letter with your full name and complete address to the court at the address below. It must be received by April 30th, 1986.
This important health warning is for women still using the Dalcon Shield, an IUD birth control device obtained in the early to mid-1970s.
And yes, it's true. In 1970, you could legally walk into a hardware store and buy sticks of dynamite. Farmers used it to clear stumps. Contractors used it to blast rock. And if you had what was considered a legit reason, all you needed was a signature. Regulations were minimal. Safety was basically up to you. It was an era when you could buy explosives on your way home from buying groceries. Some of the most shocking things from the 70s didn't come from malice, just plain ignorance. Take car safety, for example. Back then, it was totally legal for babies to ride on a parent's lap right in the front seat. Seat belts? Optional. Car seats? They existed but barely worked, and they weren't required. Parents didn't think twice about tossing their kid into the front bench seat for a trip to the store. It wasn't until the 1980s that real safety laws came into play.
Always take your keys out of the
Now,
car.
let's peek inside the medicine cabinet. Remember mercurochrome and merthiolate? Yeah, those bright red antiseptics that every kid in America got painted with? Turns out, they both contained mercury, highly toxic. For decades, nobody really questioned it. Until finally in the 1990s, the FDA banned them. Still, for an entire generation, getting painted red was kind of a first aid badge of honor. And of course, there was smoking. In the 70s, you could spot NFL players smoking cigarettes on the sidelines. It wasn't just allowed, it was normal. Coaches, athletes, even television broadcasters lit up on live television. It took decades of public health campaigns before things started to change. But back then, a halftime smoke was just part of the game. A scrape was treated with mercury, and a cigarette, well, that was just a break. From buying dynamite like a bag of nails, to women needing a man's permission just to get credit. The 1970s? It was a whole different world. And honestly, it's a powerful reminder of just how far we've come and how the freedoms of the past can sometimes look like the dangers of today. So tell me, which of these legal practices from the past shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this trip into our complicated past fascinating, go ahead and like and subscribe for more.